This question came into me this week about flexibility from April and Rick, who are working out with me, and I am excited to answer it because I too had some issues with flexibility in the back of my legs and just about every muscle in my body. And I'm still a work in progress. So one thing I have gained over the years is flexibility, great flexibility in the back of my legs, because I learned to stretch properly. So while genetics do play a factor or do factor into your flexibility, definitely, you can increase your flexibility in muscles. You just have to know how to stretch correctly. So what I'm gonna do is just show you some hamstring stretches. But before I get into the specifics of those, it is important for you to make sure that you're stretching not just the hamstrings or the upper hamstrings, but you're also stretching the quads and the hips. Because sometimes if you're really, really overdeveloped in your quads, your hamstrings tend to be a weaker muscle anyway, and they won't give if your quads are super tight. And that was my case at Lottie Burke method when I first started. My hamstrings were really tight. I couldn't even get my leg on the bar without like that. So, but my quads were really strong because I had been a gym junkie and just really developing my quads with presses and stuff. And so when I got to Lottie Burke, it was all about flexibility. And so what happened was I went down in a stretch, not warm. I just was at home, and I just went forward, and it was actually this leg. And I just felt something snap in the back of my leg, and it was one of my 3 hamstring muscles. The next day it was completely black. It was torn, those muscles, that muscle in the back had torn. It would not heal until one of the senior teachers told me, you gotta really like stretch out your quads. You really need to bring balance from front and back. That was the first thing I'd ever heard of that. And so that got me thinking about this whole balance from front and back. So I got a rolling pin. This was before foam rollers were available. And I rolled my legs out, and it was that rolling my quads out was excruciating. I started to feel the back of the leg healing. And so then I started to really make sure that I was warm when I was stretching, and that also I was stretching both sides, balanced training. And as I worked at Lottie Burke and started to really work the seat muscles in the back of the leg, I started to get strong, flexible muscles. So that's what I want to teach you. So now let's talk about this stretching. So one of the questions was not being able to straighten the leg, and I think it's like probably when we're maybe lifting a leg up and not fully being able to straighten the leg. To me, that could either be tightness in the hip flexors, not being able to fully stretch out the legs, because if these muscles are really tight, you might not be able to get that full extension of the leg. So it could be here, or it could be at the knee, so the muscles never get stretched at the knee. So all the muscles of the lower leg, the upper leg and the lower leg insert behind the knee. So that's why I'm always like, straighten out your knee. So let's just talk about the hamstring stretch. Let's start with if we're forward bending. So for forward bending over in a hamstring stretch, a lot of times so I'll just turn this way, but I want to use the bar because I want you to use your countertop. So I want you to come, so if we bend down and we only have the floor to reach for, you're gonna have to bend the knees to reach the floor. So unless we're really stretching out and releasing the lower back, do you see that these muscles stay short here? So instead of, and so for some of us, we can fully straighten the legs and really take the tailbone up because we've worked on that flexibility. Better for you that cannot reach the floor with straight legs would be for you to use a support. And so all you do is let's say, look at your legs, hips distance and parallel, and then hinge over with straight legs. And then if that's it, and then you start to feel the pull here, then you stop. As soon as you start to feel the back, I don't care if it's in the lower calf, I don't care where it is, it's the back of the leg. So we're stretching the whole back of the leg here. If you stretch with the straight leg, and you stretch with the pelvis rocking over the legs, and you just hold where you're feeling it, you're gonna gain flexibility. But if you always reach down to the floor, it's not going to change, at least right here, because you're always gonna stay short. So you wanna use a support. So when I am teaching like the lunge stretch, so like let's say the half split, and I'm here, and I'm down on the floor, well, I can feel that stretch, and that's a pretty intense stretch. What if we got into a half split and you were to hold on to the support and you say, okay, so to reach forward, I'm gonna keep my chest and heart lifted, I'm gonna keep the integrity of the spine, and I'm gonna hinge forward. and I'm gonna take my tailbone back behind me, and I'm gonna open up high hamstring all the way down as I flex my foot through the Achilles down here. And I'm going to stretch, and as soon as I feel that stretch, and I'm feeling it, honestly, I'm feeling it right here in the back of my knee, into the upper calf for me, that's me. So as I get more flexible, I can go lower, and then I can maintain my back being lifted, my chest being lifted, and reach down to the floor, but I have to gradually get there. I'm not going to do this and just feel middle hamstrings. That's not gonna help you get flexible. I mean, it will a little bit, but it's not gonna help you get what you're after, which is more flexibility probably behind the knee. So I want you to think about nothing, you only wanna have that integrity in your stretch. Heart is lifted, chest is lifted, and you can hinge down, just like this, holding there, and then you can lift back up, and then switch it out, holding your support, and you'll feel yourself going little bit by little bit, lower and lower and lower, and you'll gain flexibility. The other thing you want to do is as soon as you come forward and you feel just that nice stretch, that just slight discomfort, stop there and then breathe into it. And then as that fades, which it should, maybe you come a little bit closer and closer and lower. And the only other point that I would make in that back of the leg stretch is to make sure that you're warm, because muscles are like taffy, and if you stretch a cold muscle, it's gonna, like taffy, if you try to stretch taffy and it's cold, it's gonna pop. But if you stretch it and it's warm, it never comes apart. It's like, you know, it's long and it lengthens. So you're bringing mobility to your joints. You're not actually taking a muscle and making it longer, because it's not stretching farther than the joints are. So that's where that length comes in. But as far as, let me just address really quickly for Rick and straightening the leg. If we're doing an extension, if that's like that, I would say, I want you to work on the back of the leg, but also I want you to go in here, again with the support, so you can keep your chest and heart lifted, and just hinge down and see if there could be some tightness in these muscles that flex your knee into your chest. A lot of muscles in this area, down into the quads. See if that helps, and write me back. I love the questions. I love to answer these. So I've certainly come from being wildly inflexible to being really super flexible. So, and I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about balance and alignment and flexibility. So keep the questions coming. I'll see you soon. Thanks for writing in.